And good morning. Rise and shine. It is January 6th, 2017. This is the first day of the rest of your life. I'm Alex Answer, your tour guide in this virtual reality, but why are we really in this virtual reality? It's got to be some meaning behind it. It's got to be some reason we ended up in this matrix. I am going to kick off a continuation of a particular theme. It's a free flow commentary from yours truly, and it is the Alex Hansberry Spiritual Commentaries on the Global Conspiracy and Evolving Beyond This Matrix. I understand that's a mouthful, but it also indicates I'm talking about the problem and the solution from a spiritual perspective. Now, sometimes I use the word gnostic. I understand that there are certain Christians that are programmed that Gnostics are heretics or evil, and so if I use that word because of pre-programming, I'm going to lose some people. I also realize that I don't even credit Gnosticism for my ideas. I found it after the fact, only a few years ago. I don't read it religiously. I find the closest parallels in some ways between some of the things that I'm talking about and Gnosticism. But ultimately, a lot of my stuff I've come up with on my own. It just seems to parallel other bits of information, and I think that's just our own tapping into this collective consciousness. I do believe that there is one. I do believe that we can tap in to higher knowledge. I believe that those that tell you that you cannot are aspects of the matrix here to hold you down into this kind of a world. So the things that are going to be said are going to be said by myself. I will not be quoting scripture. Now, every now and again, I think that there is a time and a place to do that. And I'm also open to recommendations from the audience. It's not about reaching 1,000 people with that video on the Gospel of St. Thomas. It is bringing that to the table as well. So you have a hearty variety of nutritious concepts to help you evolve beyond this matrix. I am here to do my best to help you and myself. By helping you, I help myself. When you help others, you help yourself. There's nothing wrong with this. Is how things work. So I'm going to give you my commentaries. I'm going to comment on the things that others have said to you and me about spirituality. I'm going to call out the BS where I see it. I'll try to keep my language clean in some of these podcasts, but I won't promise anything. So make sure that the pet animals in the house and the cats and the rabbits and all, that they have their ears protected when I start to go off. But you're going to notice that I'm after years of doing this and actually going off grid for the first time on my own property back in summer. There were some times that I took off YouTube. There were some periods like last week where I'd say, well, I'm just going to upload all day long and maybe make a better income doing content all day long. And then, boop, no, that's not the way to go either. See, there's a lot to myself and what I have to offer my audience. The thing is, and I have some open-minded audience members, even though I've definitely done some tongue lashing at the more closed-minded aspect of the audience. There's a lot of you that are really open that put out a lot of good comments. And you are not expected by me to subscribe to all of my ideas. So when I smush all of my stuff into one rant, one video where it's all there, I understand that is a lot for the average person to handle, and a lot of different opinions and ideas. It's asking a lot of people to be that open to all those. So what you'll notice now on the channel, I have a news segment. A lot of these early morning podcasts I think should be tailored towards the spiritual commentaries in the global matrix, the global conspiracy. How do we evolve beyond it? And it's going to be very free flow. I'm going to cover different things. I'm just going to comment on society. I'm going to comment on technology. I'm going to comment on relationships. And so these early morning podcasts, and perhaps, I've heard from others in the past that they've enjoyed listening to them while on the treadmill. As time goes on, the audio quality will improve. You might notice at times a slight buzzing. That's what you get when you don't run your stuff through a board. The thing is, I'm not going to be spending any money until well after I get my vehicle. and I'm snowed in. We have record snowfall this year. I mean, we have literally a foot of snow outside this cabin. So this is also a sacred place. As I smell the candle burning before me, this is as my primary form of light, as my primary form of heat is 1 foot away from me, a Mr. Buddy heater. As I use a generator to power this computer right now before you, as I rely on a ride to town to get more gasoline to power that generator to bring you more spiritual energy, I actually have to turn matter, transfer matter to matter. Money, gasoline, generator, power batteries, cord, transfer, computer, record, inspiration, speak, energy, compress, upload, energy, power, internet technology. People could say all they want. Well, you're not off grid. You've got access to the outside world. This is something that people that are not brave enough to go off grid say. It is a low level intellect. It is not a strong spirit that would say something like that. It is a weak spirit. Who was around 2,000 years ago, 1,000 years ago, during the rite of the Nag Hammadi or other spiritual texts talk about technology replacing our relationships? So how can I cite scripture when the words that need to be said are within me now? And when I focus, a little bit of anger is okay, a little bit of fire, but as long as you don't burn down the house and burn up everybody listening. Start, pulling out that powerful sword that I've got once I got your attention and then coming after you. A little bit of comedy early in the morning. And I can do that. I can literally step back from aspects of my own personality and drive, and I'll notice I'll have certain focuses at certain times of the day, which is why I'm going, okay, it's time to really almost like program a clock and be my own PD on my own station, on my own channel. We're going to do early morning spiritual commentaries and or other podcasts that are free flow from the heart, off the top of my head. There's something about the way my brain waves are working during this particular time, and also early in the morning. And as I have more access to power and as I go into summer, I'm going to be doing more podcasts with my friend Kyle. Different hours of the night, different hours of the day, things of that nature. Maybe some of you contact me if you'd like to do some joint podcasts. But be warned, I'm going to rely on you to do the recording on your end and do some of the technical back end on your end because I don't have enough broadband on this end to record both of us. Or it's not a risk I want to take because the internet drops. It's a very spiritual thing as we start delving into our conversation. When you start reaching out across the pond or across the planet to help someone, again, thank you to those that have donated, especially across the nation. Thank all of you inside this nation. Doesn't matter how little it is, but I just want to say, when the universe shows you that level of compassion from across the pond, it's very, very real. We should be grateful for everything that we receive, but when it comes from across the planet or from someone that is listening in another country, or even if it's a comment, I mean, that alone, to reach people. Have we or have we not been gifted with a wild card? Are we or are we not gifted with the knowledge? Because first you must have the knowledge to use a tool. If you do not have the knowledge or the gnosis to use the tool, how can you use the tool for the greatest good? We have been gifted this wild card by the Creator. And what are people choosing to do with the wild card? What are you choosing to do with the wild card? It isn't the tool, it's what we do with the tool. It's whether we use the tool to make the world a better place or whether we use the tool to enter into a virtual reality. There are many that have entered into their own virtual realities, and it is troubling to watch. It is troubling to witness. And the virtual reality headsets. So in my own gnosis inner within, When people like myself and others, we talk about the coming changes with the sun. And it's very emotionally charged for me, just to let you know this, because there are certain things that we will be known by when we are gone. There are certain things that you will be known by when you are gone. I'll say I don't believe it's all ego. When we set forth to go, we embody this knowledge, we embody this gnosis, and we must share it with the world to help the world see the patterns, the real causal factors, as above, so below. There are many into astrology and the zodiac amongst you in our world, and I have not followed in their footsteps. And I do not believe that isolating yourself from the world of astrology and the zodiac is all that there is. In fact, it really limits you from the true ways of the Almighty and ultimately free will, because you are stronger than your star sign. You are not limited by this material world. So as I was saying, when the Christians talk about the return of the sun, is it really a deity, or could it be the return of a solar cycle that restores our civilization, restores our species, rather, because civilization is a arbitrary, it is a artificial construct. I don't think that there is any good in labeling all of civilization, or anything for that matter, evil. There are aspects of civilization or community that could be seen as positive. And also, regardless of this thing called socialism and other ills of our world, other counterfeits. Oh no, let's bring the people around this concept. Yes, community. Community equals socialism. Sharing equals socialism. No. We shouldn't be on that type of a programming to where we gravitate to certain political systems because they seem to mimic healthy human character. Yeah, there is healthy aspects of certain political systems at first. That's what pulls them in. This harsh labeling and judgment, and we do commentate. I will comment on the global conspiracy. I will comment on modern politics. And I will provide my own gnosis. This is something that is not done. I see myself as a trailblazer in a world where people stay in their box. One person said the closest to you is a guy named Rich something who talks about the archons. I'm familiar with him. I think he's one of the best on YouTube. He does not seem compromised. He seems legitimate, but he doesn't get into politics. I won't judge him because some people need to be really good at what they do. And that's why I'm talking about doing these morning podcasts, continuing on with the evening newscasts where I try to stay on point with the analytical left brain. Boom, 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 boom. Here we go. 20 stories in a single hour. Utilize that talent and share that knowledge at that part of the day. Again, speaking from the heart on video during the middle of the day usually. There's something about that in the middle of the day, the midday awakening. But the early morning where we are now, no script at all. No reading at all. Completely off the top of my head. And not even coming into this with a morning meditation. Just literally just barely even at stretches, you know? A little bit of green tea. Some out of coffee. Start up the generator. Took me about a half hour to do that. Using the heater to literally warm up the generator so the generator would start. I mean, these types of... it's not just about being close to the earth. It's about living rough. Because there's something about us, I mean, we become more grateful when we go on that route in life. We're grateful for the small things. So I'm going to use this time here to talk about things that need to be said. So as I was saying, when people label all people radical left or this, that, and the other, and engage in shallow judgment, they are showing their ignorance. Briefly, when people have called me leftist, oh, that guy's probably paid by Soros. They show such great ignorance, leading me to another truth I'll share with you, that they are not worthy. We're not worthy. We're not. They are not worthy of even arguing with. This is what you need to understand about how the archons use people to harass other people. It's not about a physical alien invasion. It's about the mind virus. So if someone out there is running around trying to awaken people, and there are other people that are stewing in their own misery, what do they enjoy doing for whatever insane reason, and why there's so many that do enjoy it? They'll attack the messenger. Whether they call it a messenger of God, messenger of spirit, and there's all this connotations that we have with this because we've been conditioned to monotheism. We've been conditioned to the idea of only Jesus in some cases. So if anyone else wants to speak with regards to what it means in their mind to be a servant of God outside the mainstream, that's considered heresy. And that is wrong. So do we see heresy from the religious crowd? Do we see heresy from the political crowd? Oh, no. There's no way you're actually an independent. You actually voted for Clinton. Do we see hypocrisy in our world today where they point the finger at the quote-unquote social justice warriors? We're talking about Trump supporters. To see them go, well, fuck that restaurant for not having a portrait of Trump. Well, how is it spiritual to have this entitlement mentality? To not only like Trump, but to worship Trump and then go after people that don't like Trump. Listen, if you like Trump or Obama or anyone because of policies, it should be because you see them helping you in a way, because you're doing something. Because you're not just, you don't want to be a person that just sits there and, oh, I just vote. No. It's about active participation in your life. This is how you avoid slavery. This is how you avoid becoming dependent on others. So how is this comparison with off the grid with spirituality and like almost like baptizing yourself or like the polar bears just running into the water like that primal return to nature? What is it all about? Why do we do it? Why do I do it? Why do others do it? To reclaim the humanity that was lost within us. To reclaim literally our soul. To reclaim literally the soul essence or energy that has been littered out throughout the cosmos and our thoughts and our fears and things that are even difficult to even describe. The things that happen in our dreams when we allegedly leave the body and go about our travels, whether we remember it or not. There is energy involved. What about periods in which we are attacked in our dreams and something's almost siphoning that fear as we felt like we were so close to death? What was that about? Why did that happen? Or why were we threatened in a dream? Some sort of a council was trying to tell me to shut up last night in my dreams. I talked about the Council of Nine and the Archons in a recent video or podcast. And there was like a group. They're like, we're watching what you're saying. You know what? I don't talk about my dreams. I do think that our dreams can be induced by Hollywood. And so we can also raise the question about Hollywood mind control to trigger things within us. But our higher consciousness can also lead us to movies that can show us a bit of truth, to have imagery within our mind to work with. So now that you've seen this and all those frames per second are now in the subliminal conscious, those frames per second of whatever happened in whatever frame of whatever said movie or TV series, like Stargate SG-1. Something embedded in the consciousness so that if we are receiving a dream where there is truth in the dream or we really were there in an astral manner or a spiritual or etheric way, it's all very interesting. So it seemed like I was in a hospital room or a ship, and there was a woman without clothing on a table. It was like a scene from a hospital, no overt alien, because we're always assuming that the aliens don't look at us, don't look like us. Not enough people actually discussing the possibility that our physical bodies, that our spirits are in, are clones of something else. Are clones of something else. In his image, or in her image of the Queen Bee. Don't want to get into all this too fast. In the dream, there was some sort of an insectoid very similar to the ghoul of Stargate SG-1. The scene with the ghoul insemination into the female could be considered to be an incredibly horrifying thing to watch because of the parallels in what's happening in SG-1 to the alleged human abduction phenomena that has happened not only to women, but some men have reported. And it's become a joke. Anal probing became a pop culture joke. And I even thought as a young person, isn't this kind of sick for a society to literally have, because something is so commonly reported, to make a joke out of the concept of being raped anally? and that it's become a joke. The Kids in the Hall comes to mind. Other skits come to mind. There's a lot of weird things behind certain TV shows, including Kids in the Hall. I'm not at all one of those that attacks homosexuals. Is there an agenda within Hollywood at times to promote certain ways of lifestyle? Well, when you look at the Kids in the Hall and how many times you're exposed to men kissing men, you tell me. There's a lot of themes with alien probing that I noticed kept coming back with some of those. So, out of boredom, living off grid, I'll go to keepvid.com and download in low quality because I have a ration internet at 144p. So I'll watch compressed version of Trigger Happy TV. I love that guy. I love that stuff. Or some other comedy, but the race baiting of Mad as Hell TV or Matt TV, no way. And looking at that stuff and Kids in the Hall and even Saturday Night Live years later, I have a whole different view on those skits. And I see those skits being leading, like a headline leading us. Here we go, from one point to another. It's like leading the thought forms to go in a particular direction. There's a reason why the puppets, known as the POTUS, the President of the United States, why they're mocked and it's allowed, because we're not North Korea. These people are fronts. And so if people are laughing and giggling at Trump, at Obama, at Clinton, at Hillary, either Bill or Hillary, or George Bush, we all remember the characters on Mad TV. It's wow, yes, entertainment's fighting back. Yeah, it's time for the royal roast, but it's all illusion. It's all illusion. We could see the effect of Hollywood, of course. The Middle Eastern terrorist, the subconscious, True Lies with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then we have technology promoting the white genocide meme in a way that it wasn't after 9/11, but recently, in just a few years. One person made a comment. It's fair for him to ask, why do you bring up your ethnicity often? Well, I haven't always done that. I usually spread it out, but I'm going through a period in which I'm raging against the machine. Alex Ansary is raging against the machine. He's not raging against you. I'm not raging against you. I'm a spirit inside this vessel, which is a clone of something else. This is what I believe to be our true nature to be. The true spirit is within. And I don't believe this is my first time on the block. I find myself very aware of certain things and discussing things that others are not. So if anything, I don't see myself as inferior. I don't necessarily see myself as superior. I have had a lot of challenging things that have happened in my life that has caused me to have certain self-esteem issues. Some of them deep-seated, very buried. And I'm working to break out of that. So when I see this machine coming at me going, white genocide, and and people doing the New Agers are hanging out with them, and they're doing backflips, and they're shaking their titties, and they've got, she's got legs, she knows how to use that. They're all partying, they've got Bud Lights going on, America. It's like one big fucking freak show, you know what I mean? ZZ Top beards and everything. Love the guys, love the music, but I'm telling you, they're trying to make this America, this brand, make it great again. It's rancid. You don't want to take a bite out of that porridge. You might be poor, you might be desperate. I'm telling you, they put it in the water. Something's going on. These people are under a spell. And this is where my spiritual commentaries on the global conspiracy and how to get out of it, this is where this comes from, because I'm living it. I'm living the spiritual warfare experience. I'm seeing the more on my spirit. Wait a minute, I am here to help you. I, Alexander Saeed Ansari of the Ansar line, that were known as Muhammad's helpers. See, I have nothing to do with that, but what is my soul doing, picking certain bodies during certain times where those genetics are called the enemy? I will stand up for what is right, and I'm speaking calmly, in my opinion, this morning, very rationally. I'm not attacking anyone. Are there those amongst you that will call me some racist, some person that hates white people or doesn't understand white people? First of all, anyone that speaks to me in that tone is saying that I'm not part white or Caucasian. And Afghans are the tribe that I come from, where my father isn't Arabic. It is also considered Caucasian. So when those amongst you that identify as white, which is arbitrary, you're more than that, and I will keep reminding you you're more of that, and they make their identity, and then they place judgment on me, they do the white judgment, and they do the denial. No, people have never treated you differently. No, 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 no. That is all in your head. You're racist. You're racist. You, Alex Ansary, are racist for saying there are people that look at you differently. Now that is Archon. Psychic attack, mind control, reverse psychology, change the topic, try to disarm someone, or, and hit them back with something when they're trying to defend themselves, try to take my sword away from me and slap me with it. No, that's not going to work. You can't touch this sword of truth. Okay? You can't come with me with lies and defeat my sword of truth. You can shoot whatever bullshit you want at me, whatever kind of arrows. Like the Buddha in the movie, it's like you could just come at me with all that bullshit. I will just sit here by the tree in the lotus position. You just attack away. It's shielded up on this end. It shields up on this end. I'm here to let you know where consciousness is now and what this means for our country. Which means if you're interested in the truth, then you will separate yourself from this limited identity of white Caucasian. You're more than that, and I'm not going to be boxed into Afghan or white, or you should just tell people you're Italian. You should recognize the sickness that this world, I know some of you are offended by the terminology your world, our world, this world that we are in, greeted me with a bit more than a doctor's slap on the ass. Let's just put it that way. With a birth certificate that says your father was born in Afghanistan in all caps. In all caps. In a day and age where you go to the mainstream alternative sites, you're like, Afghan rapist, blah, blah, blah. So I want you to understand that I know what spiritual warfare is because I'm living it and I'm a survivor. Now, I'm going to continue much more along those lines along my specific background for the remainder of this podcast. But I have answered in detail for many of you why I've been raging against the machine. And why now? Because the machine, whether you've noticed it or not, has turned up the hate. When people come to me, they never came to me years ago and said, Alex, the number one threat was white women with Middle Eastern women, which they will label as Muslim, which they are literally describing Muslim as a race. And they're not taking acknowledgement for the fact they're doing that. But if you're talking about refugees from certain countries and you're using Muslim to describe them all, you're using Muslim to describe a race. So we're entering dangerous territories, and I think things are worse than what was alleged to happen in Nazi Germany. Many people don't even believe it even happened. I'm not on that bandwagon of trying to deny something. What I am on record as saying is that what's happening now in Afghanistan and Iraq is worse than what was reported to have happened in Nazi Germany. You know why? They're not counting the dead in the Middle East. We already know a few million are dead. So how many was reported to have died, and where are the bodies with regards to Nazi Germany? And again, some people believe that there's been a stretching of the truth. When you look at what's going on in the West Bank, you look at what's going on in Palestine, you look at what's going on in Yemen, the dead bodies in Pakistan, Iraq, Afghanistan, and what will be of Iran? There are many nations I have not mentioned. What about all of these proxy wars in Africa, where the U.S. and Russia literally go back and forth, practicing destabilizing countries? You know, the U.S. and Russia, they have practiced destabilizing countries. So my spiritual commentary on this is satanic, this is archonic, this is a sign of some really bad things to later come to the Western continent or Western countries. It's an evil. It's an evil. There is a spirit of evil that is on this planet that does not prefer one nation over another. I don't even really think it prefers one human race over another. In fact, we're having our genetics toyed with in ways most people that are freaked out about white genocide are not talking about. With technology, they talk about taking you, not the Muslims, no. People like Elon Musk, who's now involved with White House business and the space program. Yes, the rovers and these rockets, even though they keep exploding. Obama talks about the corporate space war is on. China and Russia have their agenda, and they've been allowed to gain economic, military, and space supremacy and other forms of supremacy. What's next? Entertainment? Seriously. We already saw what RT was able to do, RT, which is just outside DC. There is a deception that I am here to reveal to you, for those with the eyes to see and ears to hear. Russia, China, and the United States are allied behind the scenes. What is happening now is a fabrication. It's a perversion of reality. We are in Wonderland. Here you are, Alice. Here's a little piece of this muffin or mushroom. Seriously, you don't need a psychedelic for this trip to go down this rabbit hole. On a deeper level, they are intertwined and they serve a dark agenda. Never to be confused by dark skin. But has there been an element of the New Age and the conspiracy research community, with help from people like Linda West and Maureen Mayan and John Lash and others, that talk about a less white world being evidence of the Archon takeover? Yes. The majority of the people reading about Archons today, to my horror, to my shock, are people that are reading disinformation about the Archons from the fake New Age channeling movement. What does that mean? That means I have my work cut out for me. This is big. This is big. When you start seeing like a massive Archon disinformation campaign to say that the Archons have been vaporized by military-grade weapons technology, EMP, literally. And we're being programmed that Ashtar commander, for those that are reading that stuff, they're being programmed. That Ashtar commander has saved them again. So, crisis saved. Crisis, near death, World War III saved. So they go fear, hope, blind fear, hope. To the New Agers, no, they're being positive. No, you're not being positive. If you are letting your intuition end up in the toilet, while looking at those websites saying the Galactic Federation of Light is saying that there's an ascension by a certain point in time. I will speak about my mother. I will. I will. And I will get more in depth. I will tell you things I have not podcasted about. But I will never forget being forced to go with her and the strange man from Aurora, Oregon in a car to a place called Banff, Canada. She wanted to meet the aliens. They were there for ascension. They were there for contact. After she spent almost 10 years in the Seattle New Age circles, which was about looking at aliens as benevolent, as our saviors, certain themes, DNA upgrade, and then verbal abuse at home, and almost came across as almost white woman supremacy. Not just I'm your mother, but as I grew older, and in this body, and to have my own ideas that some of you apparently understand that she cannot respect. And I'm like, whoa, there's something deep-seated regarding Archon hierarchy. And then when you look at the Galactic Federation of Light, they use the word hierarchy. So they're not about like a true consciousness and equality. There is hierarchy. There are favorite genetic lines on the planet, and then there are those that will be left behind whose DNA was not upgraded. This obsession with DNA and appearance, and even white genocide, is based in the flesh. It's all the work of the Archons. So the Archons are on one side of the aisle, working the Alex Joneses of the world, and him himself being someone that I believe to be possessed. Meaning, he is literally releasing spells upon his audience. Even if you don't like the man, I have seen Alex Jones critics develop dark spirits and become mean-spirited. And they will develop these obsessions with Alex Jones. So I've done my Alex Jones Deception series, but that was all done literally within a matter of a few weeks. I do not recommend studying possessions in action unless you are a very strong spiritual being. And you know that. If you have shown yourself prone to being hypnotized or influenced, and please get off your ego, because we are built that way, to be programmed and hacked into. So if you have shown yourself to be, that's why I won't allow myself to listen to him, because he makes good points, and the reason he'll make good points and he'll start crying and he'll do the conversations with God bullshit, oh God, the children, is because he's trying to reel people back in after he just shits all over himself. People also speculate, people like Passio and others, and they give their opinion, which is their opinion, as I will give mine. But don't think that getting an opinion on why they put things in plain sight, don't assume that that's the ultimate truth. They're not able to escape their own karma by putting things in plain sight. That's bullshit. There's another reason, perhaps, why things are in plain sight. And people have jumped to certain conclusions and have said that they really believe that they're not responsible for their actions. if they show you what they're going to do ahead of time. I believe, in my opinion, spiritual commentary of the global conspiracy and how to get out of it in real, not just some title to sell a book. It's to remind you that you have free will. That's why 9/11 was made so obvious. Devil in the devil cloud aside, which many people has photoshopped to amplify biblical end times prophecy. Notice they have the emphasis on the beard, the bearded devil. And now we have the witch hunt for the bearded man, as well as the shaved Middle Eastern immigrant, as we see these false flag manufactured events take people by storm. So this whole, they're coming over the wall, we've got to do something to them. You've already been doing something to them. You're already occupying their countries. Ron Paul, you're not helping. You're not helping by saying, no wonder why they hate us. There are plenty of people that do not hate in the United States. Don't even say that as a defensive mechanism before your peoples. Because there are plenty of people serving this government, this system, this military that don't have hate in their hearts. So when you see literally a machine coming alive, you should also notice the ignorance. Wait a minute, what do you mean you think Facebook is against Donald Trump? It's through Facebook, where 44% of the people get their news, where they are pushing the most fakest of the fake, of the sickest of the sick headlines at the top. They're coming to rape you. They're coming to invade you. Problem, reaction, solution. Problem, reaction, solution. These are all hallmarks of mass mind control on our planet. When you have people that knew about it several years ago go into a situation where they don't know about it, and you're asking me on my channel, why are there so many truthers that are going Zionist? What's going on? Why is Trump tied in with Israel? I'm answering your question. Somehow, some way, whether it's a long-term or a short-term spell, a spell has been cast. How many of you have even heard about Nick Begich? How many of you have heard him talk about the Soviet mind control in the 50s, where they sent out a signal and construction workers in that area were affected by whatever they were using? You're going to have to, listen to Nick Begich to hear more about this claim. And what was that signal in this test telling or instructing those Russian men to do? To go to the local market to buy some cake, and then to come to this place or this town center, delivering the cake. What are we doing here? There's always people with cakes. So just to see if you can get them to do that. Now, that was 1950. And then we had the subliminals and the stuff that came out, Satan loves you, the backward stuff, the Zeppelin and all that stuff. Then it came out in the news. People freaked out. We had the satanic panic. We went to tapes, then boom, CDs, then digital. We have the analog to digital shift after 9/11. We've seen people literally change personalities, in my opinion, when they did the analog shift. For the cable viewers in Portland, I watched Portlanders change. Now, with regards to archons, and I'm going to keep exploring these ideas now that I have an audience that is receptive to these ideas, and these are some of my core topics. There are links between mind control, propaganda, deception, signals, things like that, in conjunction with solar flares. They both are riding the band or the frequency of what is called electromagnetic energy. You also hear about electromagnetic pollution. And there are naturally occurring forms of electromagnetic radiation. These are English words that we are using to describe the etheric impact, the etheric world around us. So there's a lot more for humans to know about electromagnetic energy, and how this band is something that I believe that the archons use as a conduit. When you have more electromagnetic planet energy connecting with the earth, and you have portals from the sun to the earth. The sun is a very spiritual thing, but when we talk about spirit, we are encompassing the all that is. Also, New Age teachings would rather you think about and or worship galactic center. They will literally work to hijack the focus and move it away from discussing the actual sun to this thing called galactic center. And there are years of programming, which they will call research, into galactic center. And now, by the way, for the first time in my life, I'm addressing this particular disinformation in the New Age. The conversations about galactic center, because I am seeing the patterns in those that talk about galactic center are ones that have been putting out disinformation about the archons and the alien beings. and they're not showing accountability for it. They're not correcting their actions. And there are some, like Michelle Walling, they're talking about having Archon attacks. They're not even realizing why. So they're getting now shifting from New Age to teaching people, showing people, explaining to people how to clear themselves. First, you have to clear yourself on a basic level. Nobody's perfect. And you have to clear yourself on a regular basis. But if you're still corded with entities, because if you're still looking up to the archangels, then how can you actually clear yourself and clear others and deal with that psychic intrusion? You have to cut the cords with the so-called archangels. The supreme being of all that is will send you the help that you need in conjunction with your higher self. You don't need to go outside the family for love. Ladies and gentlemen, that just came to me. All this is coming to me in the free flow. You don't have to, no. Before you go out into strange parts of the universe, being led in guided meditations by people like James Gillen, as he flashes you, as he opens up his robe and does a little shaky and says, want to get enlightened. You need to think a little carefully and closer at the fake projections of being saved by aliens coming from people that claim to actually have walked up on Palladian ships in the physical. As James Gillen says, you want to see it? I'll show you spacecrafts. Come on down, baby. Check out our place in Trout Lake, Washington. I'll show you spaceships. I'll get you real high. I've been there, ladies and gentlemen, 8 times. I know who James Gillen is. The dude is creepy. This is about the women. This is literally what you think it's not. This is about the women that come up there. And the few men that'll come up there and serve him and promote his message. The man is anything but someone that'll sit down, look you in the eye, and have a regular conversation and want to hear your ideas on something. There's something weird going on up there at the Gillen Ranch. And I think it includes the Archons. And I think that people that go up to visit James Gillen are coming upon observation. I believe he's a host. Okay. There's enough women that have talked about him trying to force himself on them in some way, shape, or form. And I've heard a few things from people over the years, really more 10 years ago, nothing recent, but I don't think the man has changed. I see the things that he's saying. He actually predicted a solar flare taking out the grid in 2009. So we go over to the old fake New Age channeling, and they're talking about the Anunnaki being benevolent, and a grid power outage is soon to come. And it seems to me, something's guiding me within to talk to you about Project Bluebeam, or the idea of the fake alien invasion. But they're promoting the idea of the fake alien savior ship like via the miniseries. So it seems like there could be something concurrent or both happening. Maybe a fake alien invasion and maybe the fake alien rescuers. In conjunction maybe with Elon Musk and other technologies to get humans off Earth. Maybe not to Mars, maybe not to the moon, but maybe somewhere else. And I talked for a full hour about this. So because this stuff's so unique, there's a reason why I can't label it Gnostic or Gnosis. I can say that when people ask, well, what's your faith or what's the closest? I could say that you can see some parallels because the Gnostics also choose to use the word archons. And for at least the remainder of this lifetime, or for a significant period in time, I am here to expose, quote unquote, the archons. And I like the work of Cameron Day. I do not agree with negative affirmations. I think that you need to participate in positive affirmations, and the proof is in the pudding. I can come here on a regular basis and take on the psychic attacks on YouTube. Others cannot. That's another reason why I ground here in nature, and I tap into the primal life force, and I step back from the archonic Agent Smith influences of this reality, and even the city in which I was born into, Portland, Oregon. I sit here and I look to nature for protection, for guidance, for strength. And I go within myself and I bring out the information. That's who I am. That's what I do. And that is not going to stop. And this is going to be a regular podcast. I believe that some of you, even some of you few females that are listening, that I know, see, I think that our souls are connected. I think that there's a reason why we're connected, why you're even listening over these years, despite the harsh words that I've used, why you're not offended, and why you seem to understand me. And while you can feel me, and I can literally feel the audience energy, I can literally feel positivity coming at me when I speak from the heart like this. and I don't get sidetracked, and I don't read from a script too long or someone else's information, but I speak from the heart. But most of all, when I do it with the intention of love, and I'm not necessarily coming at the attack, and I haven't really come on the attack in this podcast. I'm here to connect with those souls that for whatever reason found me, and maybe we knew each other before. You don't know that. You don't know that this is our first meeting. You don't know that. I think some of us are meeting again. And I think that some of us may be a part of a larger, true guardian of the earth archetype soul. So like we're all individual, but something happened at some point to where there was a big bang. At some point, the big bang was our soul going boom. And things happened. And in a way, we're trying to find our way home. We are trying to find our way home. Sometimes it's through the pain. There's my blog from 2009. You can find it on my website or on Google. It's through the pain that we can find the way home. I used to write a lot more. Now I speak a lot more. And I also want to say, just on a side note, I'm open to volunteers transcribing my work. I would love to have a volunteer transcribe all of the spiritual Archon podcasts. And I think it should be in a book. And I think a lot of the information has already been put out there. I would literally have to go into my top videos and transcribe it myself. But I do say this in passing to those listening, that there is a position in my life, if you will, where you can help volunteer. You know, you're literally doing this not for me, but for Spirit. If you agree that the message is coming from Spirit, you don't have to transcribe everything. But I believe that what I'm tapping into is something that you can tap into. We are talking about tapping into our own gnosis. But the modern gnosis doesn't sit there and look for scripture and worship anything, not even a Nagamati. It doesn't. It looks for that knowledge within. But I'll tell you what, these concepts of that knowledge being within, the concepts of talking directly to God, the spiritual ideas of being, and it's even in Lord of the Rings, that's a gnostic theme. Sauron is an archon. Just like Dark City, it's in us. This knowledge is in us. This duality, this split. You may think that you're a scientific person who's rational and whatnot, therefore looking into the paranormal isn't for you. And I say that hypothetically. I understand most of you listening are here because you want this information and perspective and opinion. But you know others that have that argument. And that is a limited argument because the real science and the real technology is more than what we understand. You know the way that archons throughout time have convinced mankind that they were gods, right? It's technology that those humans perceive to be magic because they didn't understand how they can do that, how they can cause the floating. Now, listen to a few podcasts from a few others, and that's how they can convince many people worldwide that there is an alien invasion by using holograms, images in the sky, things that appear to be floating. To us, to a lot of humans, especially that have been prepared for something like this, it'll seem to be an invasion. Or, you know, like via the miniseries, it could come in the form of something benevolent first, that later changes into something that is invasive. But whether or not those are real aliens or not, or whether that is something that we would call a part of the shadow government, see, that is to be seen. But that has been discussed by William Cooper, who was correct in his summation that first would come the Islamic threat. And by the way, how long can they do this? How long will they do us? How long will they maintain this program of the Islamic threat? How long will they maintain this white genocide meme? Because if it was that serious of an issue, and if it was that real, like we would have heard about these things years ago. What's happening now is a staged, manufactured, quote-unquote immigration crisis. You have supply and demand. There's only so much space. You have a country destabilized by design. Then boom, all types of elements come in, including criminals. And some of them may rape. And then you take those rape stories when people are a product of their environment and they become like Islamic gangbangers. And you have a situation and you make the whole world see that. But no, we won't talk about the U.S. white troops that have raped Afghani women. And all this has happened. There was a spat of rape attacks in the Middle East and Iraq. So when you see society go, no, we're not going to talk about that, but we're going to talk about that because that demonizes a certain group. The Archons have an agenda. And that is to capture those souls for at least another lifetime. And it's harvest season. That's why this propaganda is exploding like a bomb, a ticking time bomb, if you will, through the technology, through what is happening. When will we see the return of the sun? When will we see the return of the solar flare that will literally decapitate the Tower of Babylon? No one knows the year or the day. But there are signs and there are patterns. And I bring to you this term pattern recognition. And we bring understandings. Well, how long can an empire, when it's basically broke, go on slaughtering? And is this not a setup to the people within that empire? And is the empire itself just like a shell of an entity? Yes, 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 and yes. And you know this to be the truth. So how much time do we have? And is my timeline of the next decade that far off for the occupation of America? Only time will tell. But we have seen persecution of the Gnostics, of the modern Gnostics, of those seeking knowledge. We have seen it in the past, and we have seen it today. We are seeing it now. We are seeing various forms of witch hunts, and we are seeing a witch hunt on for certain websites called fake news that at times support others being persecuted if they have participated in the false Islamic invasion meme. And now, for those audience members, they still believe that, all this is hogwash, and the only real threat are the Muslims. Well, you have heard from those amongst you, amongst your own people, amongst your own tribal members, amongst your own media in this matrix, that ISIS has been funded by the West. You have heard from others that 9/11 was not as it seems, and we've seen now they tell you ISIS has taken over Afghanistan. And you have heard people say that they were in the Middle East for oil and drugs years ago, but they don't say that as much anymore. Are you not responsible, having been exposed to the truth, to do what's right? Because if you think that you're not responsible for voting for certain people that are expanding wars, you are wrong. You are spiritually corded with those entities. I had several dreams, by the way, of Donald Trump, though, as of recently, as well as Obama. And in spirit, he was mad at me. There was a lot of anger. It was like I was almost a hostage in a sports car with Donald Trump driving, and it's like the dude's gonna run us into a wall or something. I don't know, but that wasn't really Donald Trump. That was the evil behind Donald Trump that doesn't like what I'm discussing, because now I'm waking people up. I'm having an effect. What I'm saying is, I was going to say this earlier and I forgot. It's the way my abstract mind works. Great information comes through, but I don't always stay linear. Camera Day puts out good info. I don't agree with his blog. You should never call them archons, because that's showing fear. Never show the fear. Never show the archons fear. Never show others fear. I mean, there is fear that is natural that we should discuss. Not all fear is irrational. Some fears or some concerns, sometimes you're having a panic attack, not because you're losing it, but because something inside you is saying, no, don't sign that document, don't go forward. I had something warn me to not let someone into my YouTube channel that was promising me better ad rates. You'll go from 60-40, where Google takes 60, you get 40 like the current, and you'll get 80-20, just come with me. And I'm like, whoa, there was all this weird shit in the contract, as well as threats of being sued if I talked about the contract. And then he was, threatening other people with a lawyer, like, no, don't talk bad about Gary Franchi of Next News Network, or we'll sue you. It's like, whoa, dude, talk about a setup. And so I was going to go ahead with this, and then something was like, whoa, you got to look closer at this guy's institution, organization. Whoa, the website's only been around a few months. What? He's saying that this is tied in with China and the UAE. What are the international conglomerates doing, getting interested in alternative media? This must be a ploy to shut us down later by acting like they're our friends now. That was what my intuition was showing me. And then it came out also the next day that his employee was doing a phishing scam, messaging basically everyone in the alternative media, trying to get them to sign up for this. And while I haven't actually made a memo about this, I saw my intuition again. And how do some of us have that? Save my ass from a potential bad decision. Something inside me woke me literally in the form of a dream, where the man known as Gary Franchi, but it just came in a warning. It's not like it was him. It was like the dream awakening me. And it was like, I'm going to make you homeless, motherfucker, for that shit you talked about me with that dude Dean. And it's like, whoa, this is very real. I'm getting a direct warning to not get involved with this advertising company because of the conflict of interest with his ties to Gary Franchi. It's a setup. It's a setup. Hit the air raid siren. It's a setup. And it's like, wow. And I talked with a few friends. We went over the information. We're like, this is a fraudulent document on top of it. Who are these guys? So sometimes the archons can come in, use people to kind of create a nightmarish thing like Donald Trump, with me and the hostage in the car. But we can also have other things that's like, wow, There was a lot of truth in that. So that's for your own discernment. When you have dreams, is there a truth there? Is there a warning there? Or is that what you think is prophecy? Oh, I had a vision of this city blowing up. Listen, I don't think that all those prophecies are out of line. I think that we are heading towards something. But there have been certain ones and people that have predicted stuff way in advance to where there is the psyops of, and we see it in the physical world through the fake news. And, the Russians are invading 2013. Well, it never happened. Every October, every 2 years, 2013, 2015, we have another Planet X sphere coming up in 2017. It's there to siphon energy and tap into that inner knowing that something is up. So as I wrap up my thoughts, what the Archons do, because they understand they've mapped out the mind of the human, they create threats and fears that mirror other things that they are planning on the timeline or that will occur later on the timeline. So the semi-intuitive human, and we're all somewhat psychic, gets misdirected by something that seems like it's the real thing that they know in their heart. Like, let's just say people know in their heart one day there'll be an invasion. Well, you create a fake Islamic invasion, so the word invasion's there. It's like keywords, but it's not Chinese-Russian invasion. It's not New World Order stormtroopers, selling American sex slaves. It's the Islamic invasion. And they're doing it to misdirect. And the fact that they're doing it now is a bad sign. It's a bad sign because the perceived threats after this are going to get bigger. It's also a bad sign because this level of demonization of the Middle Eastern human indicates that genocide is on the menu. And if that's the case, you're going to have a lot of souls that are going to become slaves to the Archons of this world. When they pull the trigger, when they push the button, when they blog about how they want to see those people hurt, they sin against themselves and they curse their own family and their bloodline. So this is actually a much bigger biological spiritual conspiracy than anything that David Icke has told you or others. And I see that there are very few on the planet that will go in this direction. I will go in this direction. And I'm convinced it will change my life forever. And it will help some of you. It will help so many of you break free from this matrix as I leave you now with words of encouragement. Develop yourself. Develop your consciousness. Learn how to meditate on a busy urban street with people screaming and honking around you. And don't show the people around you that you are meditating. You will just simply be in that space of, with whatever level you're at that moment, you being knowing, all knowing to the best of your ability. And being equanimous and neutral and not being thrown around by the neon signs and the screaming and the screeching and the arguing. As an introduction, start with a few minutes of Vipassana. Do this as homework on your own time. I'll be back with more podcasts. I'm not going to go into all this, but it's the observation of your breath as it is. Deep breathing is important, but this is just specifically just sitting there and observing your breath and getting out of the monkey mind. This will also help you, for those of you that are already open-minded enough to even listen to this podcast, it will help you understand certain things. And if you can be into a mindset of observe the breath, in and out of the nose, observe the sensations in the body. Don't scratch, don't react, just observe. By being less reactive, you're going to go deeper into the idea, into the conversation, into what is being discussed, into the picture that is being painted in the mind. You're going to be able to focus and receive the teachings and receive the knowledge. We're not talking about programming. We're talking about the observation, you observing it without arguing with and go, well, I'm not really, you just said white genocide hysteria. I'm really, some of my audience members were doing this. They were like, I just heard Alex Jones say that the university professors call for white genocide. I'm confused. I like you and I like you. You cannot have love for both a messenger of God and a servant of the devil. I leave you with these words. I'm Alex Yancey, signing off for today's January 6th, 2017 spiritual commentaries on the global conspiracy and how to evolve beyond this matrix. Please like this video, comment on the things that stood out for you, share this video with others, and consider becoming a monthly contributor to my work for $5 a month.